collecting lots of insects, but mostly flies. I expect to find a lot of new species. I expect to find a lot of flies which are critical to my research and my graduate students' research to resolve issues of biodiversity and systematics. Depends on what kind of fly you're looking for, but the particular groups that I specialize in are microbial grazers. So I find them especially in particular kinds of decomposing material, rotten wood, for example, or bits of decomposing vegetation, compost, dead animals, dung, all sorts of things like that. Well, you can see we're collecting tonight at the lights because some flies join those thousands of big moths coming to lights at night. This is a mercury vapor light over that white sheet back there. I found a couple of extremely interesting species tonight, one that will be very important to one of my graduate students' work. It's not the central way I collect mostly during the day, but we do get the odd very interesting thing coming into the lights. During the day I will sweep, I run pan traps, use other kinds of traps. Pan traps are very important. I'll aspirate or pick up specimens from particular substrates, and I spend a lot of time poking around the bush with the macro lens because I want to not only get the specimen, I also want to capture some idea of what they're doing, of their behavior and interactions before I take the specimen, because there's a lot of very important information there. In many cases they need to be described before they can be identified in the classical sense, before they can be given a name, because many of the species we're finding here are in recognizable genera, but they're in species which haven't yet been worked out or named. Identifying the genera is, for the most part, fairly easy because each genus is characterized by a suite of morphological characters, wing venation or bristles or abdominal characters, which allow us to look through a microscope, or often just with the naked eye, and say, okay, that's that genus or that's that genus. Species identification and species characterization is often somewhat more difficult and may require dissection and careful work in the lab. Flies occur everywhere, almost literally everywhere. Not in Antarctica, there are no species in the families I study in Antarctica, but pretty well everywhere else. At the family level, the answer is everywhere. At the generic level, it depends on which genus I'm interested in. Some of the particular groups I'm looking at here, these long-legged flies called Micropezidae in particular, are very characteristic of neotropical forests across a wide range. Some are only at mountaintops, some are only at 2,000, 2,500 meters. Others are only much lower. So I guess the real answer is it depends. There's something I'm interested in almost everywhere, but here at about 500 meters in the Costa Rican rainforest, there's a very rich fauna of some genera that I'm trying to sort out right now. All sorts. As a matter of fact, just today, I was telling you earlier that I observed a rare genus for the first time, and when I saw how it was holding its abdomen up in the air and waving its legs in certain ways, I recognized that it was behaving the same way as another genus. Realized that probably those two genera are quite closely related because they inherited this series of stereotype movements and behaviors from a common ancestor. The flies that I'm looking at here have very complicated mating behaviors, so they do little dances and they kiss and they exchange fluids, and it's fun and informative to sit and watch them. Those are the typical kinds. And sometimes I'll see oviposition. Today I saw some flies laying eggs in a rotten log, but the mating behavior is often the most interesting. Oh, it's fantastically important because flies rule the planet. They affect us in a myriad of ways. I think most of us working here are interested in their role as important components of biodiversity, as part of the web of life. We're trying to understand the components of the web of life to see how the whole thing fits together and extrapolate from that in various directions. Disease control, medical entomology, agricultural entomology, understanding and preservation of biodiversity, and pure curiosity. I think that's probably the component that I like the best. It's just going out there. The heart of science is finding new things, and every day we're out in the forest or at the lights, we're finding new things we didn't know about the world. That's what it comes down to, really, for me.